They didn't see it coming, not in the cake, the presents, the candles, or the balloons. The truth came out with a crayon. Just a child's drawing, bright uneven lines, stick figures, a crooked smile. But it would unravel everything they thought. They knew about their family. It was her 7th birthday when she looked up, grinned, and said, "That's not my grandpa." The house was full that day. Streamers hung from the ceiling, the scent of chocolate frosting filled the air, and cousins ran through the halls like loose marbles. Laughter, music, the usual chaos. Emily sat at the end of the table, wearing a paper crown that barely clung to her silky brown hair. She was quiet, unusually focused, crayons scattered before her as she worked on a surprise thank you card. For the man she called Grandpa Richard, he stood nearby, smiling, holding a camera. The red light blinked, recording everything. His sweater was beige, the same one he always wore to birthdays. His voice was soft, warm, the kind that makes you think of fireplaces and bedtime stories. No one noticed when Emily looked at him, really. Looked at him and tilted her head, confused. Then she drew. A house, a dog, her family, all stick figures labeled in her tiny crooked letters. Mom, Dad, me, Charlie, the dog. And at the edge, a tall man with a dark smudge where the face should have been. Instead of Grandpa, she wrote, "The other man." Her mom, Leah, chuckled when she saw it. "Em, who's that supposed to be?" "That's him," Emily pointed. "But that's not my grandpa. He looks different in my dreams." Everyone laughed it off. Kids say weird things. Imagination, right? But Leah felt something tighten in her chest, a cold pinch of something off. That night, after the guests had gone and the house had fallen into a gentle hush, Leah couldn't sleep. She stared at the drawing Emily left on the fridge. The man had no eyes, just a scribbled mess of black where the face should be. The kind of mess kids make when they're trying to erase something they shouldn't have seen. Leah pulled out old photo albums, the ones with frayed edges and handwritten labels. She flipped through page after page of birthdays, vacations, and Christmas mornings. Grandpa Richard was always there, always smiling, always standing just a little too straight. But something in her mind whispered, "Look deeper." She noticed something strange in the photos, the distance. Richard always stood, a few feet back, never touching, never lifting the kids, never sitting, always behind, like a shadow. She closed the album, her hand trembling slightly. The drawing wouldn't leave her mind. The next morning, Emily seemed normal, cheerful even. But when Leah asked about the drawing again, her daughter went quiet. "I see him in my dreams," she said softly, not meeting her mother's eyes. "He's standing by my bed. But he's not real. I don't think he ever was." Leah tried to stay calm, masking the ripple of fear crawling up her spine. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Emily picked at the corner of the table. "He talks to me. He says, 'Don't tell your mommy.'" That was the moment Leah felt something. Crack. She called her sister, Marlene, who lived 2 towns over. "Hey, do you remember anything weird about Dad? I mean, Richard?" There was silence on the line, a long pause. "What kind of weird?" "I don't know. Just strange." Emily said something, a drawing she made. She said he's not her grandpa, that he talks to her in dreams. She said he tells her not to tell me. Marlene didn't speak for a few seconds, then, "Leah, Dad wasn't there when Emily was born." "I know. He was sick." "No, he wasn't sick. He wasn't around. He left for almost 2 years." "Mom never told you?" Leah's throat tightened. "She said he had work overseas." "No," Marlene whispered. "He just disappeared. And when he came back, he was different, distant, quiet, and Mom never talked about it." Leah hung up the phone with a chill soaking through her bones. She needed answers. That night, after Emily was asleep, Leah went into the garage and pulled out the box. The one. Labeled Mom and Dad's old papers, dusty, sealed, untouched for years. Inside were letters, birth certificates, postcards, receipts, old plane tickets. A few strange ones stood out, one from Canada, another from Prague. dates that didn't match any family trips she could remember. And then, buried at the bottom, a small envelope with her name on it. She opened it. Inside was a photo. A black and white snapshot of a man who looked like Richard, but wasn't. He had the same height, same posture, but the eyes were different. The jawline, sharper, the back red. The real Richard, March 1993. Her hands went numb, March 1993. Emily had said, "That's not my grandpa." She ran upstairs, dug through old yearbooks, old photos. Something was wrong, deeply, horribly wrong. The man in her daughter's life, in all their family photos, wasn't the same one in this old picture. The next day, Leah visited her mother, now living in assisted care. "Mom, I need to ask you something serious." Her mother's eyes were tired, unfocused, but alert enough to sense the weight in Leah's voice. "Is Richard my father?" There was silence, then a soft, weary sigh. "Leah, your father died in 1993. The world stopped moving. But I didn't want to raise you girls alone. He came into our lives after. He looked similar, enough to pass. And you were so young, you barely noticed the difference. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Leah felt the ground shift. Beneath her, you let us call him Dad. You let him live with us, be part of everything. He wasn't him. He wasn't even related to us. "I did what I had to do," her mother said. "He made me feel safe again. And he promised to take care of you." "But who is he? What's his real name?" "I don't know," her mother said. "He never told me." Leah staggered out of the room. Her heart pounded like war drums. Back home, she stood in the doorway of Emily's room. The little girl was sleeping peacefully, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Her small chest rose and fell, gently. Leah looked at the drawing on the fridge again, the faceless man, the other man, and then she noticed something new. In the corner, barely visible in yellow, crayon, Emily had scribbled a name. It was shaky, almost illegible, but Leah could make it out. Elliot. She'd never heard that name before, not in stories, not in passing, not ever. But when she searched it online, Elliot plus March 1993, plus missing, an article popped up. Man vanishes from small town. Wife left. Behind. 2 daughters. A man with the same face later spotted across the country under a different name. No charges filed, no closure. Case cold. It wasn't just family secrets. It was identity theft, and her daughter had known somehow because, children, they see things adults have forgotten how to see. She walked back into the kitchen and picked up the drawing with trembling hands. Her daughter hadn't drawn a thank you card. She had drawn a warning, and the man they all trusted wasn't who he said he was. The air in the house felt heavier after that night, like the walls knew something, like they were holding their breath, waiting. Leah couldn't look at Richard the same. Every time he smiled, it felt rehearsed. Every story he told suddenly rang, hollow. His eyes seemed colder, more calculating, as if he knew she was watching now, as if he'd been waiting for this moment all along. She didn't confront him, not yet. She couldn't, not without more, so she waited, listened, watched. She started recording their conversations, saving every word, looking for cracks in the mask. "Did you ever go to Prague?" she asked casually one morning, pouring coffee. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, just smiled. "Maybe, years ago. Work trip." "Why?" She shrugged. "Just curious. Found some old tickets in a box." He nodded slowly. "Ah, your mother used to keep everything." But something flickered behind his eyes, a flicker she didn't miss. That day, she called the journalist whose name was on the article. The one about the real Richard. He didn't answer the first 3 calls. On the 4th, he picked up. "This is Thomas Klein. Mr. Klein, my name is Leah. I think I know what happened to the man from your article, the one who vanished in '93, Richard Callahan." Silence. Then, "Go on." "I think he was my real father, and I think someone took his place. Another pause. Longer. He finally spoke. Meet me tomorrow, public place. I'll bring the file. That night, Leah hardly slept. Emily tossed in her sleep, murmuring again. Leah sat by her bed, brushing her hair back gently. He's watching, Emily whispered, eyes closed, breathing shallow. Who is, sweetheart? The man with no name. Leah felt her chest tighten. The next morning, she met Thomas at a small diner just outside town. He was older than his photo, with tired eyes and a satchel full of paper. He pulled out a folder thick with documents. This is everything I have. Richard Callahan was last seen March 12, 1993. He worked at a lumber company, never came home from work. No body, no trace. His wife filed a missing person report 2 days later. Then, nothing. Until 1995. A man matching his description pops up in Oregon. Different name, same face. Neighbors said he had no past, wouldn't talk about family, didn't even own a birth certificate. Leah stared at the grainy photos. The resemblance was terrifying. Same eyes, same posture, same smile. That's him, she whispered. That's the man who raised me. Thomas leaned forward. You said your daughter mentioned a name? Elliot. His eyes narrowed. He flipped through the papers. There, Elliot Nash, alias used on a forged driver's license found in a locker connected to the Oregon sighting. Is there any proof he's not my real dad? Not yet, Thomas said. But if you're willing to do a DNA test, I can run it through the database. She agreed. That night, Leah found herself watching Richard from the hallway. He was alone in the living room, watching an old Western. The flicker of the TV cast shadows across his face. For a moment, he looked ancient, worn. But then he turned slightly, just enough to glance toward the hallway, and she saw it, that look, the one that wasn't love, the one that didn't belong to a grandfather. He knew, he always knew. The next day, Leah swabbed Emily's cheek while she slept. Quiet, careful. She mailed the test under a false name. She told no one. 2 weeks passed, each day slower than the last. Richard acted normal, too normal. He fixed the gutter, trimmed the bushes, baked muffins with Emily. But Leah could feel it building, like something beneath the surface was starting to boil. Then the results came. Thomas called her. It's confirmed, he said. The man in your house isn't Richard Callahan, and he's not biologically related to you. He has no record before 1994. He's completely fabricated. Leah sat down on the kitchen floor. Her breath caught in her throat. So, who is he? We don't know, but what's worse, he's used at least 6 names across 3 states. Always finds a widow, always finds a family. Has he hurt anyone? Not that we know of, but they all vanish eventually. Move, disappear, no contact, no closure. Leah's hands began to shake. That night she planned her exit. Quietly. Carefully, a bag for her and Emily, a burner phone, cash. She told Richard she and Emily were going to visit her sister. Just for a weekend, he smiled. Of course, have fun, give Marlene my love. But when she opened the trunk the next morning, there was something inside, a photo. It was her. Emily, sleeping, taken from the hallway. And on the back, in neat, deliberate writing, "You shouldn't have looked." She slammed the trunk shut, heart thundering. Richard stood in the doorway, waving. She didn't wave back. She got in the car, locked the doors, and drove. Fast. She didn't stop until she reached Marlene's place. That night, she told her sister everything. Showed her the files, the drawing, the letter, the photo. Marlene was silent, pale. You know what scares me the most, Leah said. Emily knew. Before I did, she felt it. Children, they sense things. Marlene looked at her. So what? Do we do now? I don't know, but I'm not going back there. Leah filed a police report the next morning, brought everything to the station, photos, DNA results, alias records. But when officers went to the house, it was empty. Furniture, gone. No sign of Richard, no prints, no trash. Like he'd never lived there, like he'd never existed. Only one thing was left behind. Emily's drawing, tacked to the fridge, the same black smudge where the face should be. And, just below it, a new word scrawled in red crayon, soon. Leah couldn't breathe when she saw that word. Soon, written in a trembling red stroke, uneven and jagged, like it was forced out of a hand that didn't belong to a child. She asked the officer, "Who put that there?" But he just shook his head. "House was locked. No sign of forced entry, no prints. It's like he vanished." Leah stood frozen in the doorway of her own past, staring into a home that now felt like a stage, a scene, a lie. The walls were bare, the family photos gone, not stolen, removed, selectively. Only the drawing remained, like it was meant for her, like it was the final act in some quiet threat. Emily wouldn't speak for days. She just stared out the window at Marlene's house, eyes glassy, distant. Every time Leah tried to ask her about the drawing, about Elliot, Emily would whisper, "Don't say his name. He doesn't like it when you say his name." Leah started to wonder if they were being watched. She changed her number, got a new phone. She checked the locks 5 times before bed, slept with a bat under her pillow, started carrying a knife in her coat. One night, Marlene found her in the kitchen at 3 a.m., clutching a glass of water, staring at the wall. "What if I brought him into our lives?" Leah whispered. "What if I invited the monster in and called him Dad?" Marlene took her hand. "You didn't know." But Leah shook her head. "No, I did. I felt something. When I was a kid, I remember once I drew a picture just like Emily did. Same face, no eyes, just black. My mom tore it up and told me never to draw it again." Marlene went pale. "Leah, your mom never mentioned that." She wouldn't, because she was scared too. I think she knew. I think she tried to tell me in her own way. But by the time I was old enough to ask questions, she was gone. Leah got the file out again that night, laid every piece of paper across the floor. One by one, she started seeing a pattern. The women, the aliases, the gaps in time, the convenient accidents, the deaths, the missing persons. Each time Richard appeared, someone vanished. A woman, a child, a house sold within months, and always a new name following just behind. But one photo stood out. It was old, faded. A group of employees from a lumber company. Circa 1989, Richard was there, standing in the back, hand on a man's. Shoulder, a man with Leah's eyes. She turned the photo over, faint handwriting. Callahan and Nash. Brothers in every way. Her breath caught. Brothers, that meant... She scrambled for the birth certificate, the fake one. Then for the DNA file. She checked. Again, reread the results. There was a match. Not a father, a paternal uncle. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Elliot Nash didn't kill Richard. He replaced him. Because he was close enough to fool the world, close enough to manipulate, to insert himself, to become her father. And she never knew. But why? Why go through so much to become someone else?" She dug deeper into Nash, found a name, Benjamin Elliot Nash. Convicted of arson at 19, released after 12 years. Last known address, Redwood Correctional Facility. She called Thomas. "Did you know Nash and Callahan were brothers?" Silence on the line. Then, "That would explain the DNA. I assumed the sample was contaminated." "No, he's my uncle. My real dad never stood a chance." "Leah? If Nash is alive, he's extremely dangerous, and if he's watching you..." She didn't let him finish. She already knew. Because that night there was a knock at the door. A small envelope slid. Under it, inside, another drawing. Emily, her mother. And a shadow, taller than both. Black scribbled face. They were all holding hands. And at the bottom, in neat print, "We're already a family." Leah dropped the paper and grabbed Emily. They left that night. Didn't even pack. Marlene wired them money. A motel 2 towns over. Under a different name. Leah didn't sleep. She sat by the window with the curtains drawn, clutching a knife, listening. Emily stirred. "Mommy!" Leah rushed to her. "What is it, baby?" Emily whispered. "He wants to tuck me in." "No," Leah said, voice cracking. "No, he doesn't. He's not here." Emily looked up. "Yes, he is." Suddenly the lights went out. All of them. Leah froze. Then the sound of footsteps just outside the room. Slow, deliberate. She held her breath, grabbed her phone. Called 911. No service. She backed toward the bathroom with Emily in her arms, heart pounding, knife shaking in her grip. A shadow passed by the motel window. Leah screamed, "Get away from us!" No reply, just silence. Then a voice, right outside. The door, soft, familiar, measured. "Leah, it's me. Open the door, sweetheart. You left something behind." It was his voice, but not the fake warmth he wore for 30 years. It was something else now, calm, cold, like ice cutting through her spine. Emily started crying. "I don't want to go with him. He lives in the walls." Leah didn't ask what. That meant she kicked open the bathroom window, shoved Emily through, climbed out behind her. They ran barefoot into the night, cutting across parking lots, alleys, open fields, didn't stop until they hit the edge of town. By the time they reached a gas station, Leah collapsed. She called the police. An officer picked them up 20 minutes later, took her statement, but when they went back to the motel, the room was untouched, lights working, window shut, no envelope, no drawing, no man, not even a shadow. The clerk said no one had checked in under the name Leah, no guest registered in that room, no child, no trace, as if she and Emily had never been there, as if the night hadn't happened at all. But Leah knew, because in Emily's clenched little fist, still trembling, was a crayon, red, just like the word on the fridge. Leah couldn't explain it anymore, not to the police, not to Marlene, not even to herself. They said there was no evidence, no envelope, no motel reservation, no man on the cameras, and the red crayon in Emily's hand. Just a coincidence, they said, something she probably picked up off the ground, but Leah knew, she could feel it, like a splinter in the back of her mind she couldn't pull out. He was watching them, not from a distance, close, always close. That night Marlene begged them to stay with her. She had reinforced doors, a home alarm, cameras, a loaded gun in her drawer. Leah agreed, but she didn't sleep. Emily did, for the first time in days, curled up in the middle of the bed, breathing soft. Leah sat in the corner of the room, eyes fixed on the hallway, knife in hand, phone fully charged, but it wasn't the sound that woke her. It was the silence, the total silence. No hum from the fridge, no heater. Even the digital clock was blank. Then, a soft sound, scratching, from inside the wall. At first she thought it was a mouse. Then she heard it again, closer, and a whisper. "Leah." She turned on the flashlight. Swept the room. Nothing. But Emily was sitting up, eyes wide, not blinking. Leah ran to her. "Baby, are you okay?" Emily's lips moved, barely a sound. "He's here." The flashlight flickered. Then every cabinet in the kitchen slammed open at once. Emily screamed. Marlene burst in, gun in hand. "What the hell is going on?" They searched the house, top to bottom. No one, nothing. The cameras, wiped, just static. Between 2:03 and 2:17 a.m., exactly when it happened, the alarm company said the system had glitched. But Leah didn't believe that. Neither did Marlene. They set traps. Motion detectors, extra locks. Leah installed a baby monitor in the room. She started writing everything down, every noise, every detail, every drawing Emily made. There were dozens now, all with the same figure. No face, just black, sometimes with a hat, sometimes with long arms that wrapped around the edges of the paper like vines. One morning, Emily came to the kitchen and said, "Grandpa says we don't have much time." Leah dropped the plate she was holding. "Emily, he's not your grandpa." "He never was," Emily frowned. "But he's in the pictures. You said pictures tell the truth." Leah froze. "What pictures?" Emily took her hand, led her to the hallway, the family wall, where framed photos lined the corridor. Emily pointed to the oldest one, Leah's 5th birthday, a backyard, balloons, a cake with 5 candles, her mother smiling, And standing in the back, a man, not smiling, wearing a hat. Leah took it off the wall. She had looked at that photo 1,000 times in her life. But now she saw it. His face was blurred, not like a camera blur, not motion, smudged, as if something tried to erase him but failed. She flipped it over. There was no date, no handwriting, just a faint fingerprint in what looked like red crayon. She staggered back. Marlene called in a friend who worked at a forensic lab. He ran a UV scan, came back pale. "There's a layer under this photo," he said. "Someone tampered with it, but not recently, like years ago." He held it up to the light, and there, beneath the top layer, was another image. Same backyard, same party. But this time, the man wasn't in the background. He was holding Leah, cradling her in his arms, but it wasn't affectionate. It looked possessive, his face clearer now. Leah felt her knees weaken. It was the same face from Emily's drawings. She had never noticed, or maybe she was never meant to. She asked the technician to extract the image. He said it would take time. That night, Leah dreamed of a basement, concrete, damp, a single light bulb swaying. She was small, maybe 5. Someone was humming a lullaby behind her. She turned, saw a man, hat, black eyes, smiling without teeth. She woke up screaming. Emily was already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, her hands covered in red crayon. On the wall, a new drawing, this one different. A door, and behind it, rows of eyes, watching, written beneath. She went in. She never came out. Leah scrubbed it off with bleach. Marlene begged her to see a doctor, but Leah refused. She needed answers, not medicine. She drove to the town she grew up in, found the old neighbor, Mr. Greeley, now in a nursing home. When he saw her, his eyes welled up. "I thought you were dead," he said. She sat beside him, who was Elliot Nash. He looked down, the man who used to visit your house when your mother was working late. He always wore a hat, never said much, just stared at you like you were a puzzle. "Was he my father?" "No," he said. "He was your uncle." But there was something wrong with him, something missing inside. Leah told him everything, the drawings, the motel, the voice. He grew quiet. "You're not the first. You won't be the last." She leaned in. "What do you mean?" He pulled something from his drawer. A photo, dated 1967. A birthday party, another. Child, another drawing in her hand. Same man in the background, same smudged face. She looked up at him. "You kept this?" He nodded. "They never believed me either." "But you can't kill what was never fully human." Leah stared at him. "What is he?" The old man said. "He's the memory that survives the fire, the name that outlives the man. He becomes who you trust until he doesn't." Leah returned to Marlene's house in a daze. Emily was asleep on her nightstand. Another drawing. This one wasn't made with crayon. It was made with ashes, and beneath it a message. "You were always mine." Leah stared at the drawing. Her hand trembled as she reached for it. The ashes smeared as her fingertips brushed the paper. The image was her as a child, alone in the woods, arms outstretched. Behind her, a figure with no face, just endless black where a face should be, and beneath it, again, in a child's careful scrawl, "You were always mine." She backed away. The room suddenly felt colder. Still, too still. Not just the silence of sleep, the kind of silence that feels watched. She rushed to Emily's bed empty, the blanket still warm. A single red crayon rolled onto the floor. Leah ran, room by room, calling her name. "Marlene? Marlene!" No answer. The back door creaked open. Wind howled through the trees like voices caught mid-scream. Outside, footprints in the frost, tiny ones. Barefoot, Leah ran into the night, heart pounding, breath slicing her throat like glass. She followed the trail through the woods behind the house. Branches clawed her skin. The cold stung her lungs. And then she saw her, Emily, standing still. Facing a tree, whispering, Leah approached slowly. "Emily, The child didn't move, just stared at the bark, at something etched into it. Leah knelt beside her, took her hand. "Sweetheart, we have to go, now." Emily finally turned, and her eyes were pitch black. Leah staggered back. "No, no, no, no." But Emily smiled, a strange twisted smile, too old for her face. "He said you'd try to stop me, but it's okay, Mommy." She pointed to the tree. "He's been waiting for her." "You too." Leah turned toward it. Etched into the trunk was a name, almost carved into the wood with fury, Elliot Nash. She touched it. The moment her fingers grazed the bark, the ground gave way. She fell, screamed. Darkness swallowed her whole. When she woke, she was in a room, concrete, cold, a single bulb overhead, swinging slowly, casting shadows that didn't match the motion. She stood, tried to scream, no voice, her throat dry, her hands trembling. Then, footsteps. From the corner, a figure emerged. Hat, black suit, a face that wasn't a face at all, just shifting shadow. He said nothing, just tilted his head and held out his hand. In it, a photo, old, faded, but she recognized it. Emily, at the kitchen table drawing, but the person standing behind her wasn't Leah. It was him. The photo burst into flame, and from behind him a voice called out, "Mommy?" Leah turned, ran toward it. "Emily, baby, I'm here." But the hallway grew longer the faster she ran. Endless, twisting like it wanted her lost. Doors lined the walls now, hundreds, all shut. One of them banged from the other side, then another, and another, like fists pounding to be freed. She pressed, her ear to one, a girl's voice, sobbing, "Let me out, please, I miss my mom." Leah screamed, slammed her shoulder into the door, but it didn't budge. Then, a voice behind her, soft, mocking, "You were always mine." She turned and saw her mother, not as she remembered her, pale, hollow-eyed, staring without seeing, and beside her, a younger Leah, eyes glassy, a red crayon in her tiny hand. The image shattered. She was in the forest again, on her knees, gasping for breath. Emily stood in front of her, smiling gently now, her eyes back to normal. "Mommy?" Leah threw her arms around her. "Oh, my God, you're okay." "You're okay? I missed you," Emily whispered. But her next words sent ice down Leah's spine. "He said you passed his test." Leah froze. "What test?" Emily just shrugged. "He said now we can stay, forever." Behind her, the trees shifted and faces emerged. Children, silent, staring, some from photos Leah remembered, some from old newspaper clippings, some she'd never seen before, all of them with a red smear across their chests. And, standing behind them, him, still, watching, as if counting down. Leah held Emily tighter. "No, we're leaving. We are leaving." Emily didn't resist. "Okay, but—" "He'll follow." They ran. Branches tore their skin. The air grew heavier. The woods twisted. The path moved beneath their feet, but finally, the clearing, and just beyond, the house. Leah burst through the door. Marlene was there. Bloodied, shaken, she stared in shock. "Where the hell were you? I couldn't find you. I thought—" Leah collapsed into her arms. "We have to go, now." They didn't pack, just drove. No destination, no sleep. They kept driving for hours, until the signal on the radio returned, until the trees looked normal again, until the sun rose. They rented a motel. 3 towns away, small, quiet, safe, or so it seemed. Emily slept, for the first time in peace. And Leah. She sat at the table, staring at the drawing Emily had made in the car. This one different. A house. Her. Emily. Marlene. And in the background, the same man, half hidden behind a tree, smiling, and written in the corner in bright red, "Thank you for bringing her back." Leah didn't speak for a long time. She just picked up the red crayon from the floor and snapped it in two. But even as the pieces fell from her hand, she could feel it, the watching, like something was still waiting, patient, smiling.